Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman here, as always, with Tom Orr. And because we are live, we also have Kevin Noon behind the camera here in beautiful Glenview, Illinois. Tom, how's it going?
It's great. It's raining. There's a gale warning, which I think might be a new one for me as far as covering football games goes.
Well, when you're in the land of Oprah, you have to watch out for gale.
Can we just start over? Oh, it's live.
No, nobody's watching yet anyway.
Okay.
It's okay.
Yeah.
I've got more.
Please, don't threaten me, please. Yeah, it is. I feel like one of the most interesting things to talk about this game is the weather. So let's talk a little bit about the weather, where it's supposed to stop raining basically right around the time the game starts, but the wind is projected to be in the the hour by hour forecast has it at like 27 miles an hour, which seems overly specific, but also pretty fast. And with a gale warning, it was I'll pull it up, but it was something like 40 or 50 miles an hour. Tony, southwest gales to 45 knots. So feel free to do the conversion in your head.
I couldn't.
With a few storm force gusts to 50 knots. Significant waves, Tony, to 9 feet, and occasional waves to 12 feet expected. Probably more out on the lake than in the stadium.
Because you're going to be field level. If there are waves on the field, that's going to be dangerous.
51.7851 miles per hour. So call it 52.
Wow, that's a lot. That's like even the sustained winds of like 27. You remember when they were showing the speeds of the Ohio State players like years ago, and Jeff Okuda was like 22. Mm-hmm. That's like having Jeff Okuda like run by you constantly, blowing at you.
Yeah, if you want to give some people a good relatable example, they can everyone can immediately picture like, yes, it would be like having Jeff Okuda run past me, blowing air at me at 22 miles an hour. Yes. I like when we make things relatable and not like, hey, it's
like what was that? It's really windy out here.
That's also the speed that people drive in cars. I mean, that might be more relatable, but hey, I don't want to tell you how to do your job.
Thank you. Please don't ever. So yes, I'm hoping the press box is safe. A lot of these rickety old stadiums, Northwestern's getting a new stadium, going to tear this thing down. I hope they haven't started already. And I hope the Penn State press box, I don't know if it could take these wins. So we'll see. The Northwestern press box, not nearly as high. I'm looking forward to it. I in a serious note, this is going to play crazy havoc with the passing game, with Ohio State's downfield passing game. And even the short stuff, like the screens, people think that's a short pass. It's like a 25-yard, it's like a 20-yard pass. It's not exactly short. And those screens could be blown up out wide. I don't know how you operate. You try to do what you can, but then you have to adjust. Say, well, we can't do this. That's too far.
Yeah, and the winds. If it's a southwest wind, it means it's coming from on your TV screen. It will be the bottom right-hand corner. That is the southwest. So what that tells me is there's going to be 2 quarters of the game where quarterbacks are going to be overthrowing the receivers, and 2 quarters of the game where there's going to be a lot of unintentional back shoulders and, maybe, back 2 steps and then back shoulder kind of throws. That's going to be hard to adjust for because it's not blowing straight north to south. Like, the Illinois football stadium, for example, will set up directly east-west. So it's just the wind is in your face or the wind is at your back. This is going to be at an angle. It's going to make passing pretty tricky. And, and if you get a gust of wind and you go from, 27 is a lot. And so then if it drops from 27 to 15, well, that's a pretty significant change. And if it goes from 27 to 40, well, that's a pretty significant change. And that's going to make things real tricky, I think.
We could see the rare backwards punt.
One of us predicted on our bold prediction show a punt of 22 yards,
less than 22
yards. Yeah. So I think there's a real possibility you get something,
because you could hit it good and it'll just go up, and then it's going to be like a cursive L.
Yeah, it'll be. It's going to make everything just a little bit more unpredictable. I think earlier in the week we were looking at this and thinking thunderstorms, rain, and the unpredictability that can bring. This is going to be a whole different thing. And Northwestern played Penn State in a monsoon earlier the year, and that game ended up 17-7 with Penn State winning. And on a fast, dry track, Penn State probably wins that by 2 more touchdowns than they do. You wonder how much this potentially holds the score down on Saturday.
Well, and I have that same question. If it was a perfect track, what are you thinking? Like 56-0 is a possibility.
Mhm. Yeah,
It's going to be anything
yeah.
but a perfect track. So that doesn't make it 14-14, but
Mhm.
it certainly evens the odds, albeit still stacked in Ohio State's favor.
Well, I don't know that it hurts Northwestern's offense all that much, mostly because I don't think, if Northwestern is going to score 10 points in a fast, dry track, it can only take 10 points off Northwestern's score. With Ohio State, yeah, I mean, 56-7 on a fast, dry track, 63-7. This is more, I picked 45-0 and something in that range. It makes it where Ohio State scores lower, which gives you more chance for silly stuff to happen. If Ohio State's scoring 60 points, they're not losing the game. If Ohio State's scoring 45 points, they're not losing the game. If that lops another couple touchdowns off that, you get down to 28-31, and you get a couple weird plays. All of a sudden, it's 31-14, and it's a 17-point game. And I still don't think Ohio State's losing, but you're at least increasing your likelihood of this being, just some weird stuff happens, and then it's sort of a game in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, if it's a 17-7 game, like in the fourth quarter, and it's one of those where there's no doubt that Ohio State is going to win, but it's just impossible to put style points up. You're going to have a lot of Buckeye fans concerned that, okay, but when ESPN and when Fox, when they give the score, make sure you spell out why.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you put that last part in, like the most important part of the box score, but just relax because it'll all sort itself out. If Ohio State wins every game 17-7, they're the national champs. So don't get too upset about that.
You know how you know that's true? Because I'm old enough to remember the 2002 season when they basically tried to do exactly that, and it worked out okay.
I have a question for you guys. Can you interpret dreams? This is a little off topic, but I didn't want to talk about it in the car.
Thanks for spelling that out, that this is off topic.
So I had a dream that Martin Lawrence had to leave Martin. The reason he left Martin was because he got offered a spot on Mama's Family.
Go on.
And then Mama's Family got pushed from whatever time slot they were going to have. How did you know there was going to be more? That could have just been the entire dream. Mama's Family then got bumped aside for Murder, She Wrote. So then, Martin Lawrence had no show.
It wasn't rebranded Martin's Family?
No. But does it mean anything?
I can almost definitely assure you it does not. I don't think Jessica Fletcher is available for a new season of Murder, She Wrote. We did pass Martin University as we were driving through Indianapolis, and I looked at that and I thought I could take a picture of this and tweet out some kind of joke about this is how you learn. This is the place where you go get your bachelor's, and saying, "Damn, Gina!" But then it was like, that's pretty weird and obscure, and personally driven past it, and it was like, that's fine.
Frank Corona asked, what was Mama's Family?
It was a Vicki Lawrence show from the 1980s where she was
late 80s, early 90s, based off of a Carol Burnett sketch.
Yeah, and she would dress up as, she was a young woman who would dress up as an old woman, and was sort of the matriarch of this show. Yeah,
it would have been very out of Martin in Mama's Family. Would just, the mix is very odd. And I don't know why I had that dream. That's why obviously I was asking you guys.
I like the fact that I looked at that, and I also thought about Martin Lawrence within the last 3 hours or so, and I decided this is too weird and not topical even for Twitter.com. Whereas you just plow blissfully ahead, which tremendous audience service listener there.
Well, I mean, it's Northwestern week. Are there any questions?
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Yes. Troy V says it means Tony didn't watch good TV shows when he was younger.
No, and I did not. It was the worst when Mama's Family was on, and there was nothing else, and it's like I could go outside, but
but that's where the exercise is. Let's see. Yeah, JJ wants to know. JJ says the only team that can't win in America, which is a really fun stat. We're here November, and Northwestern has more wins in Ireland than they do in the United States so far this season.
Would you? It seems like if you had I guess we could do this, where you just create a Northwestern shirt or apparel, but you can't use Northwestern, but you'd be like undefeated in Ireland. something like that, where you tout that you have not lost there, and you don't even mention where you've lost in America. Like, just like 1-0, and then like with the Irish flag, because you can't copyright that.
That's tremendous. Not one of the 3 best T-shirt ideas you've come up with. I mean, unfortunately, there's probably not a tremendous market for it in the Evanston area, but maybe it'd be good for St. Patrick's Day. Mark wants to know if we've been drinking. No,
Not yet. No,
we literally just got here.
no. This is just travel. I mean, you get to the hotel and it's like, throw the camera on. Okay, that's what you're gonna get.
Andy wants to move the game to that beautiful indoor facility, which is not the worst idea I've ever heard. I can't imagine there's going to be a particularly generous sized crowd. So go ahead and move it inside like they do with move the spring game inside one year for Ohio State or something like that. Yeah. So
Or a scrimmage, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. I have not been there yet. I don't even know if I've been there. It was up the last time we were there. We just never. Right? Was it?
I believe that's right. I believe that's been up because we were here in 2019, and I believe that facility was up either that was the first year or the year before that. So but we have not actually made it over there.
There's never any time to go like check these places out on a game day.
Yeah, and for a noon kick, 11 a.m. Central Time, we'll be out of the hotel before 7 a.m. or something like that, and drive there and then park and then walk a half a mile. Because if you have never been to Evanston for a football game, if you are familiar with Central Ohio, it's kind of like take the Upper Arlington High School football stadium, and it's surrounded by neighborhoods, and it's just like tree-lined streets. And you park. We the last time we were here parked in an elementary school parking lot, which was deeply convenient because the game was on a Friday night, so we had to circle the block for 45 minutes or an hour, waiting for the elementary school children to leave the elementary school so that we could park in the elementary school parking lot. Which flawless plan, 10 of 10, no notes.
I dropped you off at the door, and I had to drive around.
Well, we drove around for a while, and then you dropped us off.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. And then when the cars are gone, it's still like, well, you can't park here until 4 hours before. And so I had to continue. Then I went and parked in a parking lot right next to it, just waiting for the other parking lot to open. It's fantastic.
So it's like a Big Ten football stadium just in the middle of a neighborhood.
It is completely.
And so we'll end up parking a half a mile away and walking to the stadium and all that, unless you want to drop us off, which there's history. If I got to walk in the rain, everybody should have to walk in the rain, right, Kevin? Although I guess we could technically drop Tom off. I mean,
just not at the stadium.
Drop him off further away.
Why am I in Aurora, Illinois? What is going on here? Yeah, it'll be so. Anyway, the point to that was that by the time you actually get set up and get to the stadium, you don't have time to screw around and do all the other stuff. And then after the game, we're doing post game stuff, and then
you're just trying to get out of town.
And you're trying to get out of town. So yes. So TLDR, we have not seen the indoor facility yet.
Yeah, and you don't really take like a June trip to other schools. And because we never have enough time. Let's just go to Northwestern, spend like a Wednesday there, go see stuff.
Drive to Chicago and get locked out of the Northwestern football facility. Yeah, that sounds like a tremendous use of time.
Hey, wouldn't be the first time I've ended up in Chicago and been told to get off of somebody's property. That was Kevin Warren's property. I was told to get off of a couple of years back. Remember?
I do remember. Yes, someone asking if we flew in on the Buckeye Huddle private jet. Yes, it was very luxurious. No, we didn't take any pictures.
It's just out of shot. It's just out of camera shot. It's right over here.
Frank says, I bet they grow the grass long. That is one of these long-running Northwestern memes. I went out on the field before the 2019 game because everyone was wondering about how have they grown the grass super long, and stuck my fingers into the grass, and it was up to the first joint of your finger. So I don't know, maybe an inch. It is not. I think that may have been a thing that they did at some point in the past. At least 3 years ago, the last time we were here, the grass was perfectly normal length. I will go out on the field tomorrow morning and get an update on grass length for everyone, because I know that is a running concern. But I honestly didn't really pay any attention to how long the grass was at Penn State last week, and I don't think it was particularly long. Michigan State's was not particularly long. The shortest grass I think I've seen is at the Fiesta Bowl, where it's like a putting green. It's like the short, and the problem there was you had all the humidity the last time Ohio State was down there, that 2019 Fiesta Bowl. And so with very, very short grass, it was very slippery. You guys had people falling all over the place. So, yeah, real short grass is not necessarily great either.
No, I would expect them. No reason to mow this like this month. Just, and with some rain, maybe a little bit higher than normal, but
No mow November. Said no shave.
it's pretty good. As long as you remember, as long as you're sticking to the no shave portion of that.
Are we okay? That's fine. We're just all right. Good. Well, if we hit certain sponsors, that would be a real smooth transition. But yeah, Troy V says supposed to be between 45 and 65 mile an hour winds around here tomorrow between 4 a.m. and 7 p.m. So,
just between 4 a.m. and 7 p.m. That's it.
Yeah. No, I don't think that Troy is located in Evanston, but yeah, it's not. I'm just scrolling through. Comments right now. A bunch of people talking about how dreams are so weird right now. So I'm not sure what point of the program this was. Could have been anything.
You're not wearing any like baggy clothes tomorrow, are you? Oh no, you're gonna be wearing a rain poncho that could take you up and pick you up in the air.
I might not wear a rain poncho because I don't want to get turned into a kite. Yeah, it's gonna be an adventure.
Photographers have to anchor themselves to the ground tomorrow. Kevin, have you starred any that Tom could look at?
Know where we're going for dinner tonight.
Oh, do we know where we're going for dinner tonight?
We don't know.
We have to kind of figure that one out.
Any suggestions?
I mean, somebody said Portillo's, but you can go to Portillo's in Indiana too now.
No, I did tell the fellas here there's a place called Fry the Coop, which is like fried chicken sandwiches, but we've come this way. Let's do something, expensive. No, that's not true.
I would be fine just if we could find a pizza place here. I mean, granted, it might take 4 hours.
Well, I did. There is a Korean pizza place just down the street. There's like some kimchi pizza, honestly, and like all other kinds of pizzas as well. But I wouldn't mind a pizza place myself, something local and sit downy. But we'll see. No idea. Usually we have this planned out. Like Kevin has planned things out. I don't want to, since he's here, I don't want to talk poorly about him.
You want me to?
Please, thank you.
Normally, Kevin has these things planned out. Normally, Kevin has, prepared for the show, shown the proper respect for the listeners, the viewers. Normally, but not always.
Not today.
Not today.
So, we'll figure something out. But, back to Northwestern, Tom.
There's a Pequod's in Work Grove 3 miles away.
No, there is a Pequod's Pizza 3 miles away.
Speaking of 6-hour waits.
That's, Pequod's Pizza was perfectly fine.
Mm-hmm.
It is Kevin's preferred Chicago-style pizza place. And it was good. It was good. But we went at like 2 p.m. on a Friday, and it's one of those things where, because it's Chicago-style deep dish pizza, when you order, they're like, now this is going to take like 45 minutes, right? Because I'm sure they've had lots of people in there who are like, I'm sorry, this is like a pizza place, so how long could the pizza possibly take? And the answer is 45 minutes. Super chat from Brian Laguerre. Penn State has stopped every run game but Michigan. Michigan is 6th in the country for least amount of punts.
I am still puzzled by that. I think there's so much blame to be assigned to Manny Diaz on that defensive plan of attack, but also Blake Corum is really good. Donovan Edwards is really good. JJ McCarthy I think he gave them 50 yards rushing in that game. Like he's an extension of both of them, and he can do his own thing, but also they just outnumbered the Penn State defense so many times. They'd have 2 guys pulling, and they'd create extra gaps, and there weren't enough defenders over there to fill those gaps. And you've got good running backs like Blake Corum who can, that gap is full. I'm going to go to this one. And then he's got 17 yards, he's got 22 yards, and they were just doing that repeatedly. And they had lots of short second downs. I was just really, really impressed by Michigan, but also you can't run that well without help from the other team. And I can't get past blame of Manny Diaz for that one. Now, they could have rushed for 280, 300, where you just dominate somebody. To rush for over 400, you need help, and they got it from Penn State repeatedly in that game.
Well, there were a couple times where Manny Diaz just took a chance. I think went cover zero a couple times and guessed wrong as to where the play was going. And, the safety comes outside, the running back goes inside, and then there's no one there. And then it's a 60-yard touchdown. You do a couple of those, that turns a 300-yard game, which is a wow game, to a 420-yard game, which is a, whoa.
Yeah, they had 133 yards on 2 carries with Donovan Edwards and Blake Corn both having like 65-yard carries or something like that. So that's where you go from 300 to 400. But again, very good run game. They don't punt a lot. Ohio State hasn't punted a lot either this season, but and they can punt. They've got Michigan has a good special teams. That also is going to be something to watch when these two teams play, because Michigan, great kicker, very good punter. They cover. Return game is like that's one of the things missing in college football anymore is like a return game. You can't, it's gone, and it's hard to it's hard to convince coaches that you can do something with it. And as we've talked about for years, with Ryan Day's offense, you don't really need kickoff. You don't need a kickoff return because 75 yards is fine.
Right. Yeah. You can, if you're getting 100% of your available yards on drives, which they've done a decent chunk this year, starting at the 25 versus starting at the 32 is materially the same thing.
It's just an injury risk.
Yep. Frank Carone wants us to do steaks and lobsters tonight, which, I mean, Chicago, I don't think of Chicago as a big seafood town, and I don't think there are lobsters in Lake Michigan, so...
You can get them out of the Chicago River.
You can try those. Troy V clarifying he is on the south side, 45 to 65 mile an hour winds are for where he is. Might be worse up in Evanston on the lake. Can't wait. Guys, enjoy your press box tomorrow. I'm sure it's going to be great. Everyone's like, oh, is it fun to be on the field? Sometimes.
I can't wait for the post game just to find out exactly how bad it was. We'll go down there. Is Northwestern an anti on the field at the end, or
they'll let us run plays? They don't care.
Okay, cool. I still don't know that I need to go down there too early. Although by like 3:00, the rain is supposed to be completely gone, and then you're just dealing with wind, and I can wear goggles.
I feel like this whole game. What was the was it like a Panasonic ad? A print ad in the 1980s where it was like the sound system was so good and you could see JVC blowing the stuff backwards in the Pioneer. All right, so it was Pioneer. That's just gonna be me all day tomorrow. One half it'll just be everything's blowing that way, and then the next quarter change direction, everything's blowing that way. It's gonna be tremendous. Yeah, it's
the bane of existence for all of the photographers are the refs that just get into a shot. Like, not only are you going to have to dodge like random refs, but like random newspapers, just
hot dog wrappers,
like right in your shot, right on your camera lens.
Newspapers blowing across me, shaking my fist. Medill, I'll get you for this.
Random cows swirling.
Valued Buckeye Huddle subscriber, Glasswing Butterfly, longtime friend of the program, would like to know: has Todd shown us the cot of shame yet? I got here a few minutes late. Todd,
well, we're sitting on it.
Is Kevin going to have to get off his chair and pan the camera down?
I'll throw in the super chat for that, Kevin. Sorry.
Freezing.
Yes, there's a cut of shame. Yes, it is. We will have to fold it out for Todd tonight.
I think I might just use the footstool for my legs and then like create some sort of a torture device, basically. But yeah, it'll be fine. It's totally fine. It's okay. No pity. Don't worry about it. Don't need my own room. It's fine. It's fine. Don't, unless you want to super chat my own room. Although there's a wedding here at the hotel tonight, so I don't know that there's anything available.
Yes. We walked in and there was a whole bunch of people really dressed up in the lobby, and it was like, let me guess what's happening here at 3 p.m. on a Friday afternoon.
Although this is the first hotel I've ever stayed at where people are there for a wedding. I'm like, oh, this is some trash. You should not be staying at this Motel 6 for the hotel wedding party.
I'm sorry, Tony. They will leave the light on for you. Yes, it's just me. Tim says, do not get kimchi, and I'm from Korea. So take that for what it's worth.
Right, that's fine.
Barnaby's of Northbrook for thin crust. Tommy's Ish. I could go for some. While we're in Chicago, I could go for some not Chicago style pizza.
Well,
Well, there are multiple types of tavern style pizza. There's like 3 or 4 different types of Chicago pizza. Everybody assumes that deep dish is the only one.
now if we go and get thin crust, can we be like, but can you make it take 45 minutes?
No, I want to hear more from Professor Pizza. Tell me more about the history of Chicago style pizza.
Well, it all started on a rainy day back after the Chicago fire.
Anyway, speaking of lighting things on fire, the quality of this show. Mark wants to know how much do we think weather will affect the score?
I think it affects it greatly. I think it diminishes Ohio State by, I don't know, 3 or 4 touchdowns, honestly. Like, now it could still be 34-0 or something like that. But I think you're taking several touchdowns off the board. And good luck kicking any field goals in this stuff. So your 45 points down is
they might miss a bunch of extra points and get there that way. Yeah. I mean, this is
and a safety from a backwards punt or something.
Oh yeah. It is all in play here. I'm honestly kind of like morbidly curious about what this game is going to look like, because you've seen like the crazy weather games. We haven't had a good fog game, and as a photographer, a fog game is not really all that appealing. But it is like a good weather game every few years.
Mhm.
You know, I think back to like the Illinois game in 2017, where
that
it was
was
just a
ridiculous.
monsoon in the second half. It's just, you end up getting cool different kinds of pictures, but also it's it's just, you've seen Ohio State beat bad Big Ten teams. Like, let's see something different. This will be a little bit of an adventure.
Yeah, I mean, how many like specific memories do you have of shooting every single game? Like, you have specific memories of shooting bad weather stuff and the shots from that, and just the experience. Like that Illinois thing was ridiculous. And by at a certain point, you no longer like actually feel the rain. It's like living by the tracks, as I always say. It's like you're just wet and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it should be. I mean, we'll see. I am perpetually underdressed for the weather. I have had like 3 games this year where everyone else is wearing like 1 layer more than I am, and it's not. I'm fine. I pretty much live in an ice rink, so I don't generally get cold. Jordan Kapler with one of those hateful super chats in history. I just hope everyone has fun, except for Tom. Which, I mean.
Thank you for that super chat, Jordan.
Which is true.
I think it's going to be there's a line between like fun and memorable, and I think this is going to maybe potentially straddle that for me. It's probably going to be a fun kind of game to watch on TV. Like if you were sitting at home in your warm house or your warm press box, this is probably going to be just a little bit of just enough of a fire drill of a game that it's going to be interesting. I don't know if it's going to be fun, but it's going to be interesting.
I think it's much better to be doing this at Northwestern than at Illinois, because that would just be a horrific experience, because it would be cold, it would be windy, it would be terrible. And also, you might lose.
And also, you're not in Chicago. You're in
Yeah.
yes. So just scrolling through here. Oh, Frank Carone would like everyone to hit those like button. I mean, I would never suggest that. I would never promote ourselves and ask for people to hit the like button.
First, we have to give them a show to like.
Well, go ahead and hit it. Maybe it'll get better.
We will not give you a show you like until you like the show. It's a chicken and egg thing.
Frank wants to know any clue how many players are out for Saturday's game. I mean, the only one that we'll have the availability report, and that will drop, and we'll be able to give you the official answer on that Saturday morning at 9 a.m. on our pregame show, 9 a.m. Eastern time on our pregame show. I will tell you that Jackson Smith-Njigba walking through the facility was obviously not practicing. No helmet this week when we were there Wednesday night. No pads. And there were plenty of guys who, Cameron Babb has not played all season, and we've seen him dressed for practice, and he's wearing a big clunky knee brace, but he's dressed for practice. So if you're not dressed on Wednesday, you're not playing. I don't think I'm speaking out of turn there, and it's probably not a big surprise for people. I think the general expectation is maybe back for the Michigan game with him, but
Well, and I saw Mayan Williams with nothing on his hand, nothing on his arm, nothing on his knee, but had his helmet. Looked like he had his full uniform, so it looked like he may have done something. But I'm not really expecting to see him tomorrow. I don't think they need him, but also how much Travion Henderson do you expect? Because you need him, but you've got the Dallin Hayden and Chip Trainum, who I don't know, they might be suited better for Ohio State's running game right now than some of the Travion Henderson stuff.
Well, how much are you going to want to run Travion Henderson on a little bit of a wet track at the beginning of the game? And, if he turns an ankle or something like that, then you're in real trouble. I think my expectation for Travion Henderson, at what point would you be a little bit surprised to see Travion Henderson have more than X carries? Because I think for me, the answer is in that 10 to 12 range. I would be surprised to see Travion Henderson have 15 carries on Saturday.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking 10, 12. And if he doesn't play, I won't be shocked either.
Yeah.
But if it's a close game and you're needing him 19, 20, 21, something like that, I think that's, for one, it's disturbing. Two, it's unfortunate for Henderson. And at that point, I know they have concerns about Dallin Hayden and Chip Trainum with ball security. They haven't really shown that in the game, and they've said they've done a good job with ball security in practice. This is going to be a different animal than anything they've done in practice, though.
Yeah, and anytime you're doing it in live fire, that's a little different. And anytime you're doing it with some rain on the grass, and because it is supposed to rain all day, kind of up until about noon, somewhere in that noon to 1 window, right at the start of the game, it's supposed to stop raining. But that grass is going to be wet probably most of the afternoon because it's not going to be sunny and dry off. So, the football is going to be wet. They practice, they will dip balls in water to get them, to get guys used to handling a wet football. But, Ryan Day talked about the fact you can't do that too much because then the ball gets really soggy and gets heavy. And then the quarterbacks have to change their throwing motion to throw a heavier football. So they can't do that much of it. So it's kind of just kind of a little weird, interesting dynamic that I don't think it's going to change anything. You were talking about, if it's a close game late, is it a close game because Ohio State only scored 13 points, or is Northwestern somehow scoring points in this scenario?
I know one way to help the passing game is just run the jet sweeps. Get some cheap yards, because we know, and Ryan Day never admits this, he wants C.J. Stroud to look good for the Heisman voters. It helps with recruiting, it helps with C.J. But if the wind is really bad and you're looking at a game of he threw for 142 yards on 13 of 25 throws, let's get him some cheap yards, and maybe we can bust one of these with the Mecca Ibuka, and he gets a free 60-yard, bomb, quote unquote. That is just a jet sweep, some cheap yards.
Can you think of another year when that might have happened and gotten an Ohio State quarterback to the Heisman ceremony in 2018? Whoops, I gave away the answer.
Paris Campbell in 2018 probably had, 300 or 400 yards just on those plays, including a 70-yarder against Michigan.
Yep. Yeah. Oh man, Mitch Rossi's sweep from the suggestion from Kevin. You might see 4 or 5 carries from Mitch Rossi on Saturday. Because I feel like they trust him. They give him the ball on the goal line, so obviously they trust him to hang on to the ball. If you need someone in short yardage, he's not a bad option. If you need, he's not going to get you 30, but he might get you 3 consistently. One
of my favorite offenses of all time was Tom Herman's at Rice, I think in the 2007 area. And they had a tight end, James something or other, but they ran a lot of Wildcat with him. He had 50
Vanderbeek.
No. No, he did not want your
live.
life. But they ran him 50 times a year out of the Wildcat. So I'm thinking, and granted, you see the big apparatus that Cade Stover has on his elbow, so he's probably not 100% healthy this season. But Cade Stover, a former running back in high school, throw some Wildcat stuff his way, maybe next year, something like that. But I do think you will see Mitch Rossi a couple of carries, like you said, and who knows how much Travion Henderson plays. But one of your bold predictions was that Chip Trainum leads the team in rushing, or at least has 60 yards. I think this is a good time to get him out there and get him some experience, because even if he does fumble and goes through that, I don't expect that to cost him the game. So get him some experience, because chances are, the way the season has gone for these running backs, you're going to need him to carry the ball against Michigan. You can't count on having Mayan Williams and Travion Henderson ready to go in that game. So you better get as many guys ready as you can, and you can't be afraid.
It's going to be so interesting to see if you get to the point in the Michigan game where Henderson and Williams are not available for whatever reason, do you trust the true freshman who's been playing running back all year, or do you trust a guy who has played running back a couple of years in college but hasn't really played at Ohio State except for the last couple of weeks? That's a really interesting theoretical discussion because, I would think, honestly, you probably go with the veteran guy with train him just because he's bigger, stronger, more likely to hang on to the football, I would think. But this is how you find, does he have ball security issues? Well, find out in Evanston so you don't have to find out against Michigan.
Yeah, give him 3 games to get ready for Michigan, basically. And if he's the guy, because he's rushed for nearly 1,000 yards in his career over his first 2 seasons at Arizona State, picked up kind of where he left off in terms of it didn't take him long to get back into the flow of practice. And he's been practicing for a couple weeks now exclusively on offense. So they're getting him ready. It'll be interesting to see because did he have 1 carry this season so far?
I believe 1 carry in the Iowa game, I believe.
I think it may have happened while I was on the elevator on the way down. But yeah, I'm going to set the over under at 1.5, Tom, of carries for Chip Trayanum.
I will take the over on that one. Peace Clan says Tom is going to give Tony a bad back, of course, related to the cot of shame and you just living on it.
I think he's talking about carrying you on the show.
Anyway, so the cot of shame. Troy V says Wildfire is a pretty good steakhouse, and there's one in Glenview. There's a Ruth Chris there as well. Bob Chin's is a good seafood place out that way as well. I'm traveling with people, at least 1 people, and maybe 2 who are not seafood people. So
Bob Chin's also has good steak. I had a couple recommendations for people to go there. Might be a little bit out of our per diem range.
I get $140 a day for per diem. Do you guys not?
I got a rock.
Does it keep tigers away? Christopher wants to know how many Eddie Bauer jackets do I own? I don't know. I mean, this is
don't look at me.
It's just like a fleece. I don't know. It's like 4 or something.
How many blue ones?
Not this one. So everyone should stop complaining. You get to complain about one thing. You can pick the color or where I got them, and you've already chosen the color. So now you don't get to complain about anything else. Troy V says after hearing Tony's dream, you better strap him into the cot of shame for the night.
And for those who are just joining us,
Odysseus says he hears I'm a strict hockey coach, which
really?
Yeah. Big yeah. He says he hears I break my whiteboard frequently.
With your fist or like over your knee or?
Yes, I'm an absentee hockey coach right now because we practice on Friday nights and play games on Saturdays, which is not ideal for the fall season. So I'm not the head coach of hockey. Softball, I get to crack the whip, but hockey, I'm just out there to help run practice.
It'd be fun to watch you do the show while also like FaceTiming practice and like yelling at your phone, like, hit the boards.
You don't watch a lot of hockey, do you?
You got to hit the boards, hit the guys against the boards. That's what I'm saying. Like, hit the boards.
That's not a thing.
Yeah, it is. Defensemen, they need to hit people against the boards.
The edges.
Oh, no, I'm thinking basketball.
You are thinking basketball, yes. Jeremiah Yoder says, question for you both. Will the 2 of you be at the Buckeyes game tomorrow? I mean,
yes.
And actually, we're just here we're here for the wedding in the lobby of the hotel. So no, we got to do that tomorrow. But yes, we will be there. Mm-hmm. More importantly, Kevin Noon will be there as well. So yes, we will be there.
Bright and early and then dark and late.
If you see us, come say hi. We're not too important to talk to you. Don't worry. Maybe Kevin, but Tony and I.
Say hi to us, and if Kevin is gruff, that's just him.
Jeff Straley says, Big Ten schedule is garbage Saturday. Could we see an update? An upset? Who else is on the Big Ten schedule? It's Rutgers and Michigan.
Right. Yeah, that's it. Right.
Rutgers and Michigan is a no.
Michigan State at Illinois.
No.
Penn State at Indiana.
No.
Maryland at Wisconsin.
What's the upset?
What's the line on the Maryland?
With Wisconsin -5.
Ooh. Yes, you could see an upset there because Talia Tungavaloa is back now for Maryland, and Maryland is a pretty decent team. I had kind of, after watching him go down, I had kind of written them off for the year because that looked season ending when you saw it. And then he's supposedly going to be back on Saturday. That one, I think you'd see an upset. And, Illinois plays a low scoring enough game that if something stupid
Yep.
happens, I've drawn this comparison before, but like the Tony Bennett Virginia teams, where if you play such a low scoring game and you're trying to win every game, in basketball 54-48, or in football you're trying to win every game 17-13, which is essentially what Illinois is doing this year. You are one stupid play away from losing. So
about Wisconsin.
no, I'm talking about the Illinois Michigan State game.
Oh, okay.
We covered the fact that Maryland might upset
We got
Wisconsin.
2 more too.
Okay. Well, hang on. Let me finish. Can I finish?
No.
Let me finish. Can I finish? If you're playing that close game, it's like the 2003 Ohio State Wisconsin game where everything's going great. You're up by whatever 14-10 or 10-7 or whatever it was, and then Lee Evans runs a little out and up on Chris Gamble, and it's the one play. And is that game in Illinois or is that game in East Lansing?
Illinois is a big favorite.
It's at Illinois.
It's at Illinois. If it's at Illinois, if it's windy here, it's going to be windy there. It's always windy there.
But they've got Chase Brown.
So you're going to have they're going to have to run the ball. But when you're playing the lower score games, you have a little bit more concern about the one stupid play swinging the game. So that wouldn't completely shock me. I'm not expecting that, but that wouldn't completely
Less
shock me.
margin of error there. Also, Michigan State missing about 8 players from the suspension from the attack in Michigan.
But they've been really good before those players went out, right?
No, in fact.
Oh,
The other games are Iowa, Purdue. Purdue minus 3.5.
Be careful.
I think one of those teams always beats the other.
I just don't trust Purdue.
Yeah.
Because anytime I start thinking of Purdue's that's the Big Ten West team, boom, they lose to whoever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that one
They should win, but I don't trust
that one I don't have a great feel for.
And then the last one is not good. Minnesota and Nebraska.
That's beautiful.
What's the line on that one? Because
It was 14.5.
and is Tanner Morgan back or no?
They removed the interim tag off of Mickey Joseph, I saw.
Seriously?
No, it may just be for the year, like they did with Luke
I
Fickell.
mean, it's probably for the year because I can't imagine.
No,
that-
they didn't sign him, but like they did with Luke Fickell at Ohio State in 2011.
Boy, Minnesota without Tanner Morgan. If Tanner Morgan's not there, if Chris Altman-Bell's still out and Tanner
He's
Morgan's
out,
still
yeah.
out,
I'm not seeing him in any of the pre-notes.
yeah, that might be
Stay away from
that might at least be a take the points kind of game and keep an eye on it because Minnesota without Tanner Morgan at Penn State looked like bad,
Yep.
like not just like wow that's a good team missing an important. No, they look bad, and that's is he a true freshman? I think.
Yeah, true or redshirt freshman.
Yeah, but I mean, like a relatively new starter,
Mhm.
didn't seem like he had a great grasp on the playbook. But yeah, that one's a little sneaky, I think, to me.
because Minnesota is already one-dimensional enough
Mhm.
with Tanner Morgan, and then you remove him, and then they become half-dimensional, and it's just Mo Ibrahim.
It's just me. Tim says, "Is there a scenario?" And I'm going to read this verbatim. That Tom and Tony must sleep in a cod together, like the fish. Cod. The answer is
Only
no.
with things.
This is like what's the thing? What was the animal in Star Wars that they had to slice? Tauntaun. Yes. If it's particularly cold for the Maryland game, we may have to slice open a cod and just huddle together for warmth in there.
And I thought cod smelled bad on the outside.
Let's see. It's just me. Tim follows up. Sorry, don't ban. I can't make any promises. Odysseus wants to know who has the cod of shame this week. Well, the answer's always the same, isn't it?
No, it's not always. Although this year it's the same, but there's only been 3 cots.
Yeah, I mean,
can you really draw a conclusion?
We're only 3/4 of the way through the regular season.
But I have
road
games. I have won more than 1 week this season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How many of those are weeks where we were awarded the cod of shame and therefore taking
That's
things
just
much
an
more seriously?
arbitrary, determiner of like that week doesn't make you, just because you won this past week doesn't make you like it's just a random week. It's just the luck of the draw of the schedule. And so it's like, yeah, okay. Thank Kevin Warren.
I do every day.
You would.
Jordan Kapler says he's honestly more excited for the Georgia and Tennessee game than Ohio State's. And I mean,
can't blame you there.
Yeah, I mean, that's
the 3:30.
That's because it's a better game. That's probably why.
We're going to learn so much. We'll know so much more after that.
We will know so much more about after that. That's a fascinating game to me because looking at it, my initial reaction was I think Tennessee might get them. Even in Athens, Tennessee might get them. And I saw the line, and it was just like the record scratch sound in my head that I think Georgia opened it like at -10, -11, something like that, and it's down to 8.5. But that's one of those like, no, rethink what you think. Don't think, wow, these morons don't know what they're doing. No. Casinos are big and shiny for a reason. And it's because those morons do know what they're doing. So reconsider your thought. And I think you look at it and it's what's the weakest unit on the field or the weakest area of, Tennessee run, Tennessee pass offense, Tennessee run defense, yada, yada, yada. Tennessee pass defense is to me, like clearly the weakest of the, 8 potential units there. That I think that feels like something that gets them in the end. But you've got that game, you've got Alabama, LSU.
I think that's one to watch.
You've got Clemson, Clemson, Notre Dame, and you've got what's the big one in the Big 12 this week? There's a good one. Oh, it's Texas play TCU. Is Texas TCU? There's another good one.
It's
somewhere.
Texas K-State.
That's it.
That's the big noon.
No, it's 7 Eastern.
Yeah, Texas K-State. That's another kind of sneaky one because K-State is probably not really 48 points better than Oklahoma State, but K-State is really solid, and K-State is also exactly the kind of team that tends to give Texas a problem. It's like, well, these guys aren't very talented, but they're really disciplined and don't make stupid mistakes. And
Texas does.
Here's Texas, coming in rootin' tootin', 6 shooting, and then blowing their own feet off every five minutes.
2.5-point road favorite.
Yeah, that's interesting.
To go back to that Tennessee Georgia thing. I think this is going to be if this is a close loss for whomever, you are going to see the drumbeat of the losing team because that losing team will probably win out. Mm-hmm. And then they should be in the playoffs because their only loss is to the number 1 team in the land. And that will lead to another scenario. If the same type of loss happens between Alabama and whichever team wins this, you're going to have people clamoring for as many SEC teams as possible. And the thing is, while it's ridiculous to say you should have 3 teams in there, if you take the other 2 out of the picture of any of the 3, each of them would deserve to be in there based on that kind of season, that loss, the history of the playoffs. We've seen those teams make it before. We've seen Ohio State make it in that kind of a scenario, not even losing to the number 1 team. Like individually, all 3 of those teams would have a claim. Together, even though the committee says they don't look at conferences, like you can't put 3 teams in unless Clemson has a loss, TCU has a loss, and you only have 1 Big Ten team, and the Pac-12 with 1 loss, they won't top any of those. Just keep an eye out.
Yeah, it's a possibility. I mean, I think we said on the college football playoff live reaction show on Tuesday night, like this is the 3 SEC teams make it, or the 2 SEC teams and 2 Big Ten teams make it. Is not, normally that's really stupid. This year, it's like there's actually a plausible path where you get there, and you wonder if the committee's really going to want to put 3 SEC teams in. I think you're really asking to have a lot of people not be happy with you at that point. 2 SEC teams, and if Ohio State beats Michigan close, Michigan is, or Michigan beats Ohio State close, if it's 34-31 and it's a field goal at the gun, and I think there's an argument for putting one of those teams in, even if it is a 1-loss Tennessee that has only lost to Georgia, and a 1-loss Georgia that loses to Alabama in the SEC championship game, and a 1-loss Alabama that has only lost to Tennessee. Like if they do the round robin thing and they each have lost 1 game, I think there's an argument to be made that Ohio State is probably more likely to make it as a fourth team in that scenario than Michigan is, just because Ohio State's schedule has been a little bit better than Michigan's, where the Notre Dame win is looking. Everyone dismissed the Notre Dame win after week 2, and then hasn't paid attention. And Notre Dame has been a lot better. The most important game for Ohio State, honestly, this weekend is the Clemson Notre Dame game, because if Clemson somehow beats Notre Dame beats Clemson, that's a big resume booster for Notre Dame, gets Notre Dame into the rankings, gets Ohio State another ranked win, all that kind of stuff. Also probably knocks Clemson out of that conversation, where even a one-loss ACC champion Clemson that's kind of looked like booty for most of the season is probably not getting in. Like you're much more likely to have the two Big Ten teams, two SEC teams in that scenario, in which case, if Ohio State loses to Michigan, it's not necessarily the death of their season.
Yeah, especially when you'd be comparing Clemson and Ohio State. Well, what are their common opponents? Well, Ohio State beat Notre Dame. Notre Dame beat Clemson. The Michigan, like say Michigan blows out Illinois, Ohio State beats Michigan but beats Illinois closely in the Big Ten championship game. That's more like there'll be some more clamoring for Michigan to get in there as that second Big Ten team.
Tim wants us to try hot dog places, which I would be fine with going to a hot dog place, but
I think I found a pizza place here in Glenview, so we don't have to mess with Pequod's, Rosati's.
The window place?
No.
What is that, Dutch? What is that last name? Is it
Rosati?
Yeah, is that Dutch?
No.
What were you just saying about the hot dogs? I would some sort of a sausage, not a hot dog. They dress up hot dogs too much here, and like it loops, and it's a bit much. That's all I'm saying. All you need is a white bun, some ketchup, a good old fashioned Eckrich. Nuke it for like 9 seconds. Boom, you're done.
You're living the Herb Street life there. That's.
I don't know if that time is accurate, but try it out.
Adam says, I'm rooting for Tennessee. I heard Reba McEntire will make an appearance if they win. Tony, you're the country music person.
Did you see that video?
No.
Oh, I'll show it to you later. It's tremendous. I believe Reba McEntire probably made at least one cameo in Mama's Family.
That sounds spiritually correct. Adam says, surprised Gene Smith didn't request to move tomorrow's game to a dome.
Hey, would anybody put up a fight? I would not.
I'm sorry. Football should be played in the elements. I'm sorry. This is my hot take. Send me to football jail, but you should play football outside. That's
but it's
the whole
so
thing.
cold. Tomorrow kickoff's going to be like 55. Ooh,
What's
I say frio.
Is that Spanish for I'm in the press box? Jordan says, I don't understand people saying there's SEC bias. Bama only lost to a team that beat Alabama. That just points the whole picture right there. I have no notes. No notes. Perfect. It's just me. Tim says, my prediction, 2 SEC teams, 1 Big Ten, 1 ACC. As long as
if Clemson wins out.
If Clemson wins out, that's, I think, almost guaranteed to be there. Because, the only way that doesn't happen is if TCU wins out and also jumps multiple SEC teams. TCU being behind Alabama in the first ranking was just kind of like, that's gonna be a problem for TCU.
Yeah, and Clemson already being ahead of Michigan lets people know that Michigan's non-conference schedule has been an issue and will continue to be an issue if they get involved in a one-loss discussion.
Yeah, and that's 100% on Michigan. Michigan was the one that asked out, and they were supposed to play UCLA. And if you play UCLA, that's a ranked win because Michigan's going to beat UCLA this year. I know UCLA's got a shiny record. I'm not that impressed with UCLA. I don't.
12th year senior DTR.
Yes, 12th year senior Dorian Thompson Robinson. I just that's one where you should be rewarding teams for trying to schedule good out of conference games. That's one of the things that Ohio State has done a very good job of very consistently. And sometimes you get the good Notre Dame team that is going to get murdered in the semifinals. And sometimes you get the bad Notre Dame team that's going to lose to Marshall the week after they play you. And there's no way to know that scheduling as far out as you do. So you try to do your best. And that's kind of how, that's all you can really do. I saw someone in there talking about the Pac-12, potentially should the Pac-12 get some win over the ACC. Honestly, I think the Pac-12 is probably better than the ACC this year, probably outside of, maybe Clemson beats Oregon, but
it might be too good. The Pac-12 is too good.
Well, that Georgia-Oregon game, I think, is going to haunt the Pac-12 because it's like they had two chances to really make an impression. Utah, which is, higher up in the Pac-12 than Florida is in the SEC, went on the road, almost won but didn't win. And Oregon flew across the country and just got disemboweled in Atlanta. It was 49-3 week one. And yeah, it's a better Oregon team again, but guess what? You don't get a home and home with Georgia. You got your chance and you lost by 46 points. That I think is going to be potentially enough to, bump a one-loss Pac-12 champion Oregon behind some other folks in that Pac-12.
Yeah, and Clemson having the ACC, the schedule is easier than it is for an Oregon who has, when you would have to play USC or UCLA or Utah, and you've got all these quality teams that you're as good as or maybe slightly better than, but they're still good enough to beat you. Whereas how many teams are good enough in the ACC to beat Clemson when they're playing well, when they're playing a better game? Now, they have a better shot of losing to Notre Dame or South Carolina this year than anybody in the ACC with the injuries in the ACC.
They could potentially lose to North Carolina in the championship game.
That's going to be
maybe.
You're going to have to score a lot to beat North Carolina, but the thing is, you will score a lot when you play North Carolina.
You will, yeah. That would at least be a fun ACC championship game. I don't know if it would be a good ACC championship game, but it'd be fun.
Drake
ACC
May
championship
is really
game.
good.
Yeah. I mean, it turns out Ryan Day. There's a pretty high correlation between quarterbacks Ryan Day is interested in and quarterbacks who turn out to be pretty good at college football.
I just wonder. Drake May was, I think, originally committed to Alabama and then decommitted and went to North Carolina. I do wonder if Alabama's going to come calling again in the portal, like say, "Hey, why don't you?" I mean, it would be tough to tell it for a quarterback to be like, "No, I don't want to go play at Alabama."
Get the old 2 a.m. text from Bill O'Brien. You up? Troy V says, if TCU and Clemson win out and the Buckeyes win out, the committee will have to put the undefeated conference champions in and not load it up with SEC also-rans. I think that's true. I also think there's a real possibility that one or both of those teams lose between now and then. More likely, TCU loses 2 games before the college football playoff, or TCU is unbeaten before the college football playoff.
Oh, I think it's more likely that they would lose 2. If you want to bring up their schedule, but they'll also have the Big 12 championship game against who would that even be at this point? Do we even how close is that to being settled?
It's that I think K-State is in second place right now because I think K-State has 1 conference loss and everyone else has 2. So if K-State beats Texas tomorrow, it's almost certainly K-State. If Texas beats K-State, then Texas has 2 conference losses, but they would probably have the tiebreaker. I'm doing this all in my head, which means it's definitely accurate. But then remember TCU and Texas, I think, play in the last week of the regular season, so then you have to play Texas 2 weeks in a row. So
TCU eventually, I think, will just get caught because they've been playing with fire quite a bit, and Scarecrow, they're eventually going to get burned.
Adam says the person sleeping on the cot should have to do the 1-chip challenge, but could Tony survive, or would he end up in the ER?
Not in the ER, but I'm not doing the 1-chip challenge. I've seen it done too many times. Now, Kevin, he's a spicy guy. We should get Dan Harker, honestly, to do the 1-chip challenge.
Dan Harker, longtime photographer, good friend of ours from our years at the Ozone, now shooting for Bucknuts, will eat literally the spiciest food in the world. And it's like, he goes to the restaurant and says, now listen to, it's like the Ron Swanson, you may have thought you heard me say, make it spicy. But what I actually said is, give me the spiciest food. It's like you'll be in a restaurant with him and they'll have to bring the cook out. Like, are you sure you want this? And he's like, yes. I don't know that Dan would even notice the 1-chip challenge. He's like, we got Culver's on the way up. So we stopped and get Culver's, and Kevin and I both got the spicy chicken sandwich, and it was like, this is like Indiana spicy. Like, it was like, what's the spice on here? Flour? Like what? So yes, that's how Dan would be doing the 1-chip challenge, I think.
Now I want to do that.
We're at about an hour.
Okay.
All right. Daniels wants to know is plus 190 a good bet for Ohio State to win it all?
Well, how much you spending?
I mean, that's.
I'd won better odds.
That feels like that's basically 2-1, and I mean you got to win a couple games. How likely are they? It feels like it is very likely that the number 1 seed is going to be whoever comes out of the SEC. Unless Ohio State, if Ohio State runs the table and all the SEC teams are 11-1, okay, or 12-1, okay, maybe Ohio State's number 1 in that scenario. And then who do you get? Do you get the actual 4th best team, or if it's Ohio State and then Georgia and Tennessee, or Georgia and Alabama, or Tennessee and Alabama, whatever combination. If those 2 teams are legitimately the 2nd and 3rd best teams, are they going to be willing to put those teams against each other? And then Ohio State plays a not super great Clemson team, a not super great TCU team, whatever.
Or do they move the 3 to the 4?
Or do they move the 3 to the 4? And it just feels like there's a lot of stuff that could hose you there. It feels like there's a pretty good chance Ohio State has to beat 2 good teams to get through the playoffs.
2-1 to win it all is not.
That's not, yeah.
I need at least 3 or 4 to 1, because that's a lot. You don't do it every year. Somebody does. Okay.
All right. So we are.
We're done.
Do we want to give our score predictions before we call it?
Sounds like Kevin wants to give a score prediction.
Well, we normally do score predictions on the Friday show. I'm just trying to keep you guys in line.
That didn't sound like a number. Our score predictions involve numbers for both teams.
Well, I picked 49-7 before Tony did, because I think 49-7 is the right score.
I should have gone first, because now he's making it look like he picked my score first.
You didn't say who was going to win.
The Bears.
The Bears.
Miniature Ditka, 49, Ohio State 7.
Guys, Miniature Ditka wouldn't even fly away in this wind. He would be the wind would just go all the way around him. I also went 49-7. But I feel like 49 is a lot in this, and what this weather is going to be, and this is requiring Ohio State to run the ball. So there's some concern there, but anything in the 30s just feels too low, and that's the problem that I ran into with this one.
Yeah, my initial one, I think I said 38-3 or something like that, and then the one that I actually submitted was 45-0, and now I'm wishing I had gone 35-0 or something like that, because I have concerns about field goal kicking in that kind of wind, and also, and I mean, I think the important number there is 0.
Yeah,
where either I'm the genius who has successfully predicted a shutout, which is very difficult to do because it doesn't happen very often, or I'm the idiot who has gone against years and years of my own advice saying never predict a shutout. So am I a genius or an idiot? Tony?
Yes. No.
We get a chance to find out on Saturday.
We'll only bring it up if you're the idiot. That's per usual. That's what we do here. We don't celebrate the victories.
This is not my first episode of this show. So yeah, I know how it works.
All right, so that will then do it. Thank you all for showing up on a random Friday, 5 p.m. where you are. It's only 5 p.m. now where we are, so it's 5 o'clock somewhere. And right now it's here.
It's 5 o'clock many places, apparently.
But I want to thank you all for joining us. Thank you for the questions. Thank you for the super chats. Reminder, we will be back at it tomorrow morning with our pregame show from beautiful Illinois, Northwestern adjacent. So looking forward to that. We will talk to you guys tomorrow.